South Africa, a land where the sun paints the savanna gold. Yet for decades, darkness ruled its people. A country torn apart by race, hate, and division. But in 1994, as the old regime crumbled, a new flag rose, not just as a piece of cloth, but as a promise of healing. A land of breathtaking beauty and buried darkness. From the golden deserts of the Kalahari to the roaring Cape Seas, this is a country where every inch of soil has been fought over, stolen, and bled upon. Today, the flag waves proudly as a symbol of freedom. But what if I told you this colorful emblem hides secrets far older and far darker than most dare to imagine? Behind the green, black, gold, white, red, and blue lies a history of betrayal, colonial greed, secret wars, and global manipulation. This is the story of how South Africa's flag, celebrated as a beacon of unity, carries the scars of centuries of conflict. Before we begin, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel to support our community. In this video, we're exposing the hidden secrets and untold history of the South African flag, revealing the stories, symbols, and struggles behind South Africa's most enduring emblem. Stay with us, because by the end, you'll never look at the SA's flag the same way again. The flag that flew from 1928 to 1994 was not originally designed to oppress. It was based on the Dutch Prinsen flag, orange, white, and blue, with three small flags in the center: the Union Jack, the Orange Free State flag, the Transvaal Vierkleur. But over time, it became synonymous with apartheid, a brutal system that segregated South Africa's people by race. To millions, the old flag became a banner of white supremacy, a reminder of pain, and a symbol of a nation broken. Long before South Africa was called by that name, it was a land of mighty kingdoms: Zulu, Xhosa, Sotho, each with its own proud culture and territory. Then, in 1652, Dutch settlers arrived at the Cape. What started as a supply station soon became an invasion. The Dutch, known as Boers, seized land, enslaved locals, and planted the seeds of centuries-long conflict. The Dutch East India Company fortified its control, but by the 1800s, the British Empire swooped in, taking the Cape Colony. Tensions boiled. Two European powers and their descendants fought for dominance, while native Africans were pushed aside. The Great Trek of the 1830s, when Boers fled British rule and formed independent states like the Orange Free State and Transvaal. The British secretly encouraged tribal conflicts to weaken resistance, supplying some chiefs with guns while disarming others. Then came the treasures buried beneath the soil. In the late 1800s, vast deposits of diamonds were discovered in Kimberley, followed by gold in the Witwatersrand. The world rushed in, and the exploitation began. Companies like De Beers, founded by Cecil Rhodes, monopolized diamonds. Rhodes was more than a businessman. He dreamt of a British-controlled Africa from Cape to Cairo and was involved in shadowy schemes to expand empire. African laborers were forced into brutal conditions. Some say tens of thousands died building the wealth that would never reach their hands. The gold mines became symbols of oppression, with strict laws like the Pass Laws, precursors to apartheid. 1899 to 1902, Britain and the Afrikaner Boers clashed in the Second Boer War. The British used scorched earth tactics, burning farms and herding Boer civilians into concentration camps, long before World War II. Over 26,000 women and children died in these camps. Meanwhile, African soldiers fought and died on both sides, yet were ignored in peace talks. South Africa's soil was soaked with blood, European and African alike. Yet the real winners were neither the Boers nor the British, but the corporations that emerged stronger than ever, holding the keys to diamonds and gold. Rumors swirl of hidden British vaults filled with diamonds smuggled during wars. Some say secret societies tied to Rhodes shaped policies that still influence South Africa today, links to the Round Table Group. The flag at the time, a patchwork of colonial symbols, reminding the world who truly ruled. By the early 1900s, South Africa was stitched together into one union under British rule. But the racial hierarchy was clear: white on top, black at the bottom, and the flag waved proudly as a banner of European supremacy. The world had just defeated Nazi Germany. Yet in South Africa, a new system of oppression was born, one inspired in part by those very same ideologies. The National Party came to power, implementing apartheid, a system of racial segregation that classified people by skin color. 1952. Defiance campaign. Black South Africans began resisting unjust laws. Sharpeville Massacre, 1960. Police opened fire on peaceful protesters, killing 69. Soweto Uprising, 1976. Students protesting Afrikaans-only education were shot. Images of 13-year-old Hector Peterson's lifeless body shocked the world. The old flag, a blend of British and Dutch heritage, flew over this horror. To the white minority, it symbolized order. To the oppressed majority, it was a mark of terror. But apartheid wasn't just laws. It was enforced with fear, spies, and murder. The security branch ran death squads, abducting and killing anti-apartheid activists. Figures like Steve Biko, a leader of black consciousness, were brutally killed in police custody, officially called accidents, but the world knew better. Some assassinations were disguised as car crashes or suicides, with evidence later linking them to state operatives. Perhaps the darkest secret of all was hidden in laboratories, known as Project Coast. Led by Dr. Wouter Basson, nicknamed Dr. Death, the apartheid government developed chemical and biological weapons. Allegations say they experimented with toxins to target black populations selectively and poisons to sterilize women. Some whistleblowers claim batches of contaminated alcohol and cigarettes were distributed to black communities to reduce resistance. Even after apartheid ended, many Project Coast files mysteriously vanished. Apartheid wasn't a purely South African creation. It was sustained by global powers. Western corporations profited from cheap labor in South African mines. The CIA allegedly helped capture Nelson Mandela in 1962, viewing him as a communist threat. Israel and South Africa reportedly collaborated on nuclear weapons research, with a mysterious nuclear test in 1979 over the Indian Ocean, still officially unconfirmed. Secret funding flowed in to keep the regime alive, while public leaders condemned it. The African National Congress, ANC, led by Nelson Mandela, fought back with both peaceful protest and armed struggle. Desmond Tutu called apartheid a crime against humanity, rallying international sanctions. Underground movements like Umkhonto sabotaged infrastructure. Songs, poetry, and art became weapons of hope. Resistance lived in culture when it couldn't live openly. The old flag still waved, but cracks were forming. The world was watching, and the darkness was about to face its reckoning. By the late 1980s, the apartheid system was crumbling under internal resistance and global pressure. The economy was bleeding under sanctions. The people were rising. And the world was turning its back on a regime that had thrived in the shadows for too long. In 1990, Nelson Mandela was released after 27 years in prison. The world watched as a man once labeled a terrorist became a symbol of peace. South Africa stood at a crossroads: cling to the past or embrace a new future. In 1994, apartheid officially ended. The first democratic elections were held, and Mandela became president. But the country needed more than new laws. It needed a new identity. The old flag could not fly over a free South Africa. Publicly, protests and international pressure seemed to be driving change. But behind closed doors, secret talks between the apartheid government and the imprisoned Nelson Mandela were shaping the country's future. Mandela, held at Robben Island for 18 years, was quietly moved to a private house in the late 1980s to allow negotiations. Some rumors say Western intelligence had a hand in pushing both sides to compromise, ensuring that corporations retained access to South Africa's gold and diamonds even after apartheid ended. There were whispers of pacts that allowed former apartheid leaders to escape prosecution in exchange for a peaceful transition. Freedom was coming, but at a price only a few understood. The government launched a call for a new flag. Over 7,000 designs were submitted, some colorful, some radical. None captured the heart of the nation. Then a last-minute design by Frederick Brownell, the State Herald, was chosen. It was bold, modern, and unlike any flag in the world. Black, green, and yellow from the African National Congress, Mandela's party, red, blue, and white from the Old Boer and British heritage. The Y shape symbolizing the convergence of diverse paths into one unified future. For the first time, South Africans of all races stood under one flag, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as citizens of a new nation. The current South African flag is young, born in 1994, the same year apartheid fell. Designed by Frederick Brownell, it was meant to symbolize a fresh start, a rainbow nation where all races could live as equals. The Y shape represents the merging of different paths into one united future. The colors? They supposedly reflect the nation's diversity. But dig deeper, and each color whispers its own story. Green, fertility of the land, but also envy over who controls it. Gold, natural wealth, diamonds and gold that fueled centuries of exploitation. Black and white, the races divided by apartheid, now forced together in one flag. Red and blue, traces of the British and Dutch colonial flags. Even the flag's proportions hint at a delicate balance, a truce between old powers and new freedoms. But was it truly a fresh start, or just the world's most colorful bandage covering an unhealed wound? Before 1994, South Africa's old flag was a hybrid, half British, half Afrikaner. To many, it symbolized white dominance. To others, it was heritage. Even today, this old flag resurfaces among extremists who reject the new South Africa. But the real question is, who controls the meaning of these symbols? The year was 1995. Only 1 year into democracy, South Africa was still a country of wounds. The national rugby team, the Springboks, had long been a symbol of white Afrikaner pride. For black South Africans, it represented the apartheid regime. But Nelson Mandela, ever the master of reconciliation, saw an opportunity. Instead of rejecting the Springbok emblem, he embraced it. During the Rugby World Cup final against New Zealand, Mandela walked onto the field wearing the Springbok jersey and cap, once hated symbols. The stadium erupted. Even white Afrikaners wept. Springboks won. Mandela handed the trophy to Captain Francois Pienaar under the new rainbow flag flying above the stadium. In that moment, a divided country became one team, one flag, one heartbeat. The new flag quickly became a worldwide emblem of peace. It flew during Mandela's visits abroad, where he was welcomed as a global hero. During the 2010 FIFA World Cup, the first ever on African soil, the flag was everywhere, painted on faces, waving in stadiums, lighting up the streets. It was even featured in Hollywood films like Invictus, immortalizing the 1995 Rugby World Cup story. No other modern flag carried such a powerful narrative of transformation. It wasn't just a national emblem, it was a message to the world. No matter how dark the past, unity is possible. Despite its positive symbolism, the new flag's rise didn't erase the old one. The apartheid flag occasionally resurfaced in protests by far-right groups, sparking outrage. In 2019, South Africa's Equality Court ruled that displaying the old flag publicly, except for historical or educational purposes, constitutes hate speech. The shadow of apartheid still lingers. Some cling to the past, but the new flag stands as a wall against hate. Today, South Africa's flag is one of the most recognizable in the world. It waves proudly at international events, on cars, in classrooms, and on murals across townships. Yet the nation still faces inequality, poverty, crime, and corruption. For many, the flag remains an aspiration rather than a reality. It symbolizes what South Africa can be, even if it's not fully there yet. A flag cannot fix a country, but it can remind its people what they're fighting for. Today, the South African flag is celebrated worldwide as a beacon of reconciliation. Yet, Beneath its bright colors lie scars, scars of blood, secrets, and deals made in silence. Its history reminds the world. Freedom is never simple, and symbols often hide the stories we're not meant to see. Many apartheid-era figures retained wealth and influence, while the majority remained in poverty. Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC, exposed atrocities but allowed many perpetrators to walk free in exchange for confession. Some alleged that Project Coast scientists struck immunity deals, carrying secrets of bioweapons into private labs abroad. Land reforms were promised but barely implemented, fueling tensions that persist today. The United States, while publicly denouncing apartheid, was accused of protecting certain economic interests in the transition. Some claim covert CIA operations ensured a controlled revolution, avoiding radical economic changes that might have threatened global markets. The South African flag is unique, not just in design, but in meaning. It's the only flag in the world created to symbolize unity after institutionalized division. From the ashes of apartheid rose a banner of hope, a flag that doesn't hide its scars but embraces them. And as long as it flies, it whispers to every South African, "You are many colors, but one nation." South Africa's flag tells a story of kingdoms lost, diamonds stolen, people broken, and a nation reborn. But every color hides a secret, and some secrets never fade. If you found this deep dive into the SA's flag fascinating, please like, share, and subscribe for more untold histories of iconic flags. What surprised you most about the South Africa flag's story? Let us know in the comments and tell us which flag mystery you want us to explore next.